So in today's video, I'm going to be discussing medical exams and what you might be worried about if you face a re-exam. So stay tuned. Hey folks, my name is Dale Davidson. They call me the VA guy, and thanks for tuning in today. So look, life is hard and the VA makes it hard to go through the compensation and pension process, jumping through all the hoops and hurdles and having these examinations and submitting paperwork and all that. It's tough. It's tough. It's time consuming. It's a difficult process. People call it a maze a lot of times. So how can I make your compensation claim easier and less stressful? Well, we're going to answer that question today. So when you submit your claim, or you're thinking about submitting a claim, you've got to submit medical evidence, right, of your disability for compensation purposes. Even if you have a presumptive disability, you still have to have a medical diagnosis, okay? So that's very clear. Always submit medical records with your claim. So today we're going to be talking about two different types of medical exams. The medical exam particular to your disability, your initial diagnosis of your disability, the initial rating that the VA is going to apply to your disability, and then what people often term as unnecessary medical re-examinations for your particular disability. So both types of these exams are often referred to as CNP exams, okay, which stands for compensation and pension benefits. So we're just going to say CNP for short. All right. So the VA has established specific medical protocols, procedures that VA physicians are supposed to follow in conducting medical examinations, especially disability medical examinations. And so, of course, they're the government, so they have these, a book called the VA Clinician's Guide, okay? This guide contains, I think, about 57 disability evaluation examination worksheets that pertain to disabilities for which you are being evaluated, okay? The guide explains that since CNP examinations differ between doctors, okay, they're basically trying to have a standard process as to language and procedures as far as determining what your disability is so they can apply that to the rating. So, of course, different doctors would describe a disability or your disability differently probably, okay? So the rating specialist has got to reconcile all of these different reports and from these different doctors into a consistent picture so they can get an accurate picture of the elements of your present disability. So if the diagnosis is not supported by findings from the examination, or if sufficient details are lacking, the rating specialist is supposed to return the report as inadequate for rating purposes. In other words, you got to start all over again. So to pass muster, the VA examination must comply with the following rules. Okay? The examination must contain not only a description of the symptoms required to classify your disability, but also a full description of the effects of your disability upon your ordinary life. How does your knee disability impact your life? Are you employable? All of those factors go in to that review. Okay. So the examination must be thorough and contemporaneous, which includes considering all relevant medical history. So they're looking back to your medical history throughout your lifetime. So in claims for evaluating the degree of your disability for, say, a muscular skeletal disability, examiners have got to address pain, painful motion, okay, whether there's additional function of loss due to pain or other complaints of systems. So I give this example. Let's say that you have a right knee issue, okay, and it's very painful. So you're always favoring your right knee. So aren't you putting more strain on your left knee too? So, or maybe you're putting more strain on your hips because of your painful knee. So we've got to look at the entire picture. How does that right knee affect your left knee? How does it affect your hips? All of those kinds of things. Okay. Number 3, the examiner's opinion has got to be based upon the facts in the case. They can't make any kind of guesses, okay? The VA must pose to your doctor a hypothetical question which fully and accurately reflects your disability picture. They can't just have mere conclusions, okay? You've got to be clear. You've got to have supporting data, okay, to allow an informed decision. Now, these evaluation examination worksheets, that's what the VA considers to be required in an adequate examination. Okay, so as your advocate, we would be looking to your doctors and helping your doctors look at these examination worksheets. And we're also going to be talking about disability benefit questionnaires in a subsequent video, so stay tuned for that. We want to follow that clinician guide so you can get an accurate description of your disability. And basically we want to provide a roadmap for the VA examiner so that he or she can accurately develop your rating within the rating schedule. So let's fast forward into the future here. You've gotten your rating, okay, and then all of a sudden you get a letter from the VA saying, hey, you've got to come in and be re-examined. What do? Okay, number 1, you don't just not show up, okay, got to respond somehow, some way. So you've already received your compensation, and so the VA, under their rules, can require you to be re-examined by a VA physician or to go into the hospital for some observation in order to verify either the continued existence or the current severity of your disability. Now, generally re-exams are ordered if evidence indicates that a material change in your disability has occurred since the last examination, or if your disability is likely to improve. I'll give you an example. That veteran had prostate cancer as a result of his exposure to Agent Orange in Vietnam. The doctor treated him for cancer. The doctor said he was in remission. VA took that to mean he's cured. They ordered a re-examination. They knocked his disability down. We fought like the Dickens, but we got it back because, of course, you're never cured from cancer. You're just in remission. But his disability was still there. So it happens, okay? The VA may also be required to re-examine you to comply with its statutory duty to assist you in the development of your claim. Never seen that happen before, but that's one of the reasons they give for the re-exams. So after your benefits have been granted for your disability, the VA usually schedules a future exam, okay, if your disability is, they refer to as not static. And the VA believes that a future examination will be needed to justify continued entitlement to your disability or to the disability rating and the benefits that you're receiving. Okay. Now, after the VA receives the examination reports, your disability rating can be increased, reduced, or continued at the same level. Okay. The VA may also schedule several re-exams. Once it is determined that a routine future exam is needed, the exam will generally be scheduled, say, 2 to 5 years out in the future. But that could change depending upon what the VA feels is necessary. So the VA does not schedule review examinations for all service-connected disabilities or conditions, okay? Generally, no re-examination is scheduled if your disability is static, okay? It doesn't change. Give you an example, Parkinson's. You have Parkinson's. Unfortunately, that's not curable. you're either going to get worse or stay the same. So that disability is static. The VA will not re-examine you if your symptoms have persisted without any, they refer to as material improvement, for 5 or more years. Okay? Your disability from the disease is permanent and not likely to improve. If you're over the age of 55 years, they will not order a re-exam. And if the minimum rating was prescribed, they won't order a re-exam. Now, if your combined disability evaluation would not be affected even if a future examination resulted in a reduced evaluation of one or more conditions, they won't issue or they won't require you to be re-examined. Okay? Now, here's a hint. Now, if the VA schedules you for an exam and your disability falls within one of those categories that we just discussed, it was static, you have the same systems have persisted without any kind of change, you're not likely to improve, you're over the age of 55, any of those things that we just discussed, don't just not show up for the exam. Contact the VA and say, look, I fall within one of these categories, so you don't need to re-examine me. Let them make that decision, okay? Don't you make that decision. So you need to argue that under their general guidelines that since you fall into that re-exam is unnecessary, okay? So, but remember that if the VA refuses to cancel the exam, show up, because if you don't show up, you will be penalized, including possible losing of your disability altogether. So don't just ignore, okay? Hey folks, thank you for tuning in today. Hope you learned some things about C&P exams, especially the re-examinations and what to look for and how you can determine if they're unnecessary and make a good argument to the VA. But hey, got another video here I want you to check out. It's called the 3 Things You Need to Maximize Your VA Benefit. We give you some tips and tricks there. So hey, check out that video as well. And until next time, you be blessed.